Competition is a sin. So it was claimed that no one less than John D. Rockefeller was to have said during the domination of Standard Oil during the last century. Well, today we believe, of course, that competition is critical to driving innovation, to protecting customers, and by encouraging a diverse ecosystem, which, of course, a diverse ecosystem protects us against things like concentration risk. By the same token, some industries, though, can really only survive or thrive through economies of scale. So think about things like silicon fabs or commercial airlines. So given the advantages conveyed by the economies of scale for the AI industry, will today's AI providers become the standard oil of the future, or is there another way? Hey there and welcome to the AI Forecast. I'm your host, Paul Muller. Join me along with leading companies and industry experts as we explore the past, the present, and the future of data and AI in the enterprise every week. And if you haven't already, I'd love it. The producers would love it if you could leave us a review for the show. We really do appreciate your support. And speaking of support, of course, a huge thank you to the show's sponsor, Cloudera, for bringing this podcast to life. So what then is the future of AI platforms? Is the future going to be dominated by two or three whales, or is there room for competition in what is a rapidly converging market? Someone who thinks about that problem all the time and thinks that decentralized technology is not only possible but necessary is today's guest, Sean Ren, who's an associate professor for computer science at the University of Southern California and also the co-founder of Sahara AI, a platform designed to enable the collaboration of decentralized AI ecosystems. Welcome to the podcast, Sean.
Thank you, Paul, for having me. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you here. I'm really excited to learn more about Sahara. I've done a bit of pre-reading prior to the show, but I've got more questions than answers as a result, so it's great having you here. But before we get into the podcast, we like to do a little something we call a lightning round. Are you ready to play the game?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Well, the first question I have for you is the one we ask everyone who joins the show, which is what would people who know Sean Ren best say is your superpower?
I have experiences in both academia and industry, which is pretty rare to have, for people who know the frontier of what is the latest technology advances and how to actually put and deploy these technology into real world productions that benefit tens of billions of users. And that gaps between these two is much, much larger than you would usually think about. And it's fun to be playing in that space.
Yeah, I have to admit, you're one of the first academics and co-founders we've had on the show, holding the both positions simultaneously. So that's an extraordinary superpower. All right, next question. And you can go anywhere you want with this. What was the most impactful technology of all time, in your opinion?
I think it's internet, right? AI is actually just making that even more powerful. The fact that there's this public infrastructure where people can generate their own content and publish, so everyone in whatever spatial or temporal conditions, they can be able to access other people's knowledge, this mind in a free way. That's amazing. And we are only seeing the concept of internet being really enhanced and empowered by AI to be more efficient, to be more productive. And I think user-generated content would be the AI-driven future. I can talk more about that.
Yeah, let's do that later on. All right, now we talk, obviously the media talks all the time about what AI is going to do for this industry or that industry. But what would Sean like AI to do for Sean in Sean's future? What's your dream for you personally?
People talk a lot about AI enhancing productivity, but I really see the value of AI automating human-to-human communications, right? Think about, I can have my personal replica talking to anyone in the world 24/7 in a language that don't even have to be human languages, but able to convey my information to you and exchange of your information. That really close up the gaps of many things. We might be not seeing any markets anymore because the efficiency of AI talking to AI that representing you can just remove any of the barriers and sort of black box nature of those marketplaces. Yeah.
Last but not least, you're someone who works with data every day. Data being, of course, so critical to AI. Just curious, what are some of the best practices or hacks or tips that you've learnt as someone who works with data every day that's helped you be successful?
I think it's just really paying attention to those like term of uses and user privacy terms when you are connecting your phone to or any of your personal devices to those apps, right? Like you might be really giving out super valuable personal informations that this centralized business might be making profits out of it without you awareing of how much is going on behind the scene.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and relates to your mission, I guess, at Sahara. So I'm curious, just to get a bit of a sense of your background, if you could just give us a little bit of an insight into how you came to be where you are.
I have an interesting mix background of both academia and industry. I started my career as a professor, now associate professor with tenure at University of Southern California. There, I work with the computer science PhD students, like over 20 of them I have worked with or currently still working with on research in AI, or more specifically speaking, natural language processing, which is trying to understand how AI and human can communicate in the form of natural language and be able to smooth out the communication and able to accomplish tasks. And in there, I mostly focusing on problems like model interpretability, like how do you help users understand what the model's decisions making process? How do you trust those models, right? How did you really control the model behavior to be aligned with the human social value and moral value, stuff like that. So there's like model interpretability, model security, common sense reasoning. All these topics come together to create what we call trusted AI sort of a research agenda. And that's like basically what I've been working on in the past 7 years as a faculty. And it really gave me access to the frontier technology evolutions in the past few years. But meanwhile, I also spent quite some time before I started Sahara AI. I spent quite some time in industry, for example, working as a data science advisor at Snapchat to think about how these AI technologies can be deployed in productions and have tens of millions of users have access to those AI, right? For example, using this AI to predict the user satisfactions, the user churn rate, personalize those apps experiences for different user. And in that process, I really understand there's always a huge gap between the research results at the frontier to what can really be deployed in industry, especially regarding the efficiency of the technologies, the cost, whether it's a sort of a good ROI in terms of deploying those AI technology as of today to those users. And this really helped me learn a lot about tech transfers when I started Sahara AI. And I also spent time before joining as a faculty at Stanford as a postdoc and did my PhD at University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. All of these are in computer science. So I'm having pretty kind of focus areas, but now really expanding to a lot wider into decentralized AI, crypto space, Web3, and all these like business world. And just to share a little bit about what drive me to really work on Sahara AI.
That was going to be my next question, is what inspired you to start Sahara?
In 2022, I've been working on research on this model called GPT-2. This is the prior model of ChatGPT or GPT-3 that everyone knows today, right? And that GPT-2 model has been amazingly powerful as I compare that to any of the prior generations of the AI model, because it can accomplish a wide range of tasks. Some of them even are very challenging for human. For example, writing summary out of hundreds of news articles, doing translations as in a performance that are comparable to expert human transcribers and all these things, right? So that struck me as the fact that AI has reached to a human level performance, and on many fronts, it's actually surpassing average human performance. With that trend, what inspired me is not just about how to make AI model even better. I think there's a lot of people doing that. We're making great progress on that route. But in parallel, a much more understudied problem is how to protect the ownerships of these AI models and AI data sets that are used to power the models. And I think on that front, big companies like Google, Meta, OpenAI, they don't talk about it because their principle is trying to grab as many of the user data, running the flywheel effects, trying to use that to iterate their model to be even better so that they can capture more customers. And then it's like snowballing, right? This is where they get more revenue, more users, more tractions. Individual users like you and me, the questions really got overlooked is if I give out all of my personal data from my photo libraries, from my Google Suite, from my email mailbox, from my text messages, then I basically is giving out my personal life to these centralized AI companies or tech companies. And they are able to aggregate all these individual data to create a computer science faculty AI agent that is doing even better job than I do. Very likely that's going to happen in a year, or it's already happening on many other professions and occupations, right? So at that point, what I'm encountering is my jobs will be able to replace by these AI models, or part of my job will be able to replace. The way I monetize myself will got really disrupted, and I might be facing a really like a life problem of where's the next for myself in this AI driven future, right? That sounds a little bit depressed, but I think that this is also the trigger for me to really think about in an AI driven future where AI become so capable of creating a replica for yourself. Can we create economic models that can make every single individuals sustainably monetize themselves while not losing their personal data, personal knowledge? And that's basically the starting kind of the backgrounds for starting Sahara AI.
I mean, it's an incredible insight, and there's so many questions that come out of that idea. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. You've described something you call a crisis in AI ownership. Is that really what you mean by that, or is that something different again?
The way to interpret that phrase is basically you don't have ownerships on your own knowledge, your own data, or the AI that are generated out of the data. Because in many cases, when you use ChatGPT, by default, you are giving out your personal usage data to OpenAI, right? Except that if you go into very much detail of the settings and turn off some of the buttons, then you might be stopping OpenAI for using your data to improve themselves. But that doesn't stop them from storing your personal data in their servers. And who knows what's the next they're going to use the data for, right? So there's a very, it's kind of there's a very dominant way for these centralized AI companies in collecting, storing, and using individual users' data for building better AI to the extent that those AIs can replace your jobs in the short term or middle term.
Let's challenge that idea for a little minute, though. I'm going to make a statement here, and I'm clearly nowhere near as well versed as the topic, as you've probably forgotten more about AI than I'll ever know. It's my understanding that a lot of these models, in essence, get effectively better or are enriched by more data, and that if we want to get the kind of world-class, world-beating models that we would need in business, I mean, even nation states are now trying to figure out how they get the best models, that you need the most data. So isn't it inevitable that there will only be a couple of really big players because they'll need to get as much data as possible? Don't you need access to this? And again, I'm curious what your thoughts are.
That's a great question. I can break this down a little bit for the audience, right? So I think it's oversimplified to say AI will get better at what it's supposed to be doing by just feeding more data, because that's already what's been saturated as of today. Thinking about the whole internet, it's public to all of these AI players, big players, right? Meta, Google, OpenAI, they've been scraping the entire internet already, and they've been trying to digest those data from the internet as much as possible. Videos from YouTube, posts from Wikipedia, from Reddit, from Twitters, right? And some of these companies start like putting like barriers for people to have access to those data. nevertheless, this internet is already assumed to be accessible by all these players, and they already been doing that. So now we are entering another stage, which is private data stage. Like the way that I can make my Twitter bot to be better, the key is not about scraping other people's tweets. It's about understanding my communication methods, my own informations, right? What is in my text messages, what's in my email mailbox, what is in my photo libraries. And then I can build a better Twitter bot as a replica of myself to talk with my fans and all of the followers. Those private data is the next battlefield for all these companies. And it's much harder to get access to those. With the current trick is if more people using ChatGPT feeding me those questions and giving me access to your Google spreadsheets, Google Docs, in order for me to answer questions about those docs and sheets, I also in exchange get access to those docs. And I can build a better personal models for yourself. But if you don't pay enough attention to granting me access to those docs, right?
It's the data that right now is invisible to those models that you're suggesting. We have a choice right now for business people. We could, and this has been obviously a topic in business media recently, is the idea that if you send a document to ChatGPT and ask it to summarize it, it's obviously going to help you get smarter by summarizing the document for you, but ChatGPT gets smarter about your proprietary information, and you've lost potentially some corporate edge. You've given away IP to other people. Yeah. So is that one of the risks of centralized AI to business? Are there any other issues that business people need to be thinking about as they look at the AI giants, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, whether it's OpenAI or others?
At the micro level, that's like technically speaking, that's what is really happening. At the more like economic level, I think the problem is these centralized players, they control the user gateways through those major applications, right? For Google are those search and search ads. They make tons of money from those. For Meta, they got money from Instagram, from all these like major applications. Same for ChatGPT or OpenAI. And because they have revenue, they have the most say in entire ecosystems of AI. They can say how much I'm going to pay for my data centers or other data centers, how much I want to pay for the AI talents in terms of their salaries and stocks, right? And how much I'm going to pay to scale AI or all these like data service companies for data sets I'm going to purchase. So they control the entire ecosystem, the upstream providers. The entire ecosystem is working around these couple big players. And the downside of that is like if I'm a strong AI developers or engineers, and I'm a new grad, right? I just graduated from a PhD program or a master program. The best way for me to monetize myself in terms of my AI knowledge or expertise is to work for these big companies. Like and get their stock, because that's in fact the most productive way for monetizing myself. You think about those like $1 million packages these days, like especially for the Meta lab, right? The super intelligence lab that they scoop the AI talent researchers for OpenAI. They paying them $10 million packages to just grab people. This is how it works today, because there's no better way exist, right? If you are a strong AI developers and you can create models, you don't have any other places or distribution channels to sell your models or sell your data sets. It doesn't exist. Hugging Face and GitHubs, they are all like open source. You can grow your user community there for free, but you don't have any way to create a business model and monetize. I think that's the problem these days. Like you don't have an option besides continuously to work with or work for these centralized AI player. And it's like snowballing. We have to find a way to disrupt this economic model, right? And that's why we need to build the ownerships of these data sets and models, creating a marketplace of these proprietary AI assets, and allow these developers and builders come in to monetize their knowledge through selling the license access to these data sets and models. And therefore we can grow an alternative ecosystem outside of this existing centralized AI ecosystem.
Now, you've mentioned Hugging Face because, of course, that is a place where people have been working on developing, sharing, refining models over time. How does what Sahara AI is doing compare to something like Hugging Face? And I only bring them up because I think I'm hoping a lot of our listeners understand what Hugging Face is and can therefore understand the differences in philosophy or approach that Sahara is talking about.
I guess the best way to describe Hugging Face is like a Craigslist for AI access, right? You can yeah. I mean,
Best description ever.
Yeah, you can list tens of your data sets that you collected in the past 1 year. You can list your models that you created in your free time, besides your full-time jobs as AI developers in Google, right? And then people can come to purchase it. You guys can negotiate price. But just a clarification that Hugging Face doesn't allow any monetary business over there, right? Everything is free. Will you publish a data set or model, you need to choose a type of open source license. Like, do you allow people to commercialize using your model? Do you allow people to just like redistribute your model or build on top of your model? There's like a few options you can license, but then you don't earn anything from that, right? It's a public good infrastructure, and it's great because I as also a professor, without Hugging Face, we wouldn't be able to advance science doing research. Even one of my students, once they finish their research projects, they publish those models and data sets on Hugging Face in order to grow the community so people can build on each other's shoulder, right? Rather than from scratch. But this doesn't help we create a new economic systems around AI that can sit in parallel with those centralized AI economies. So what Sahara AI envision is to create a whole developer platform where developer come in, they can use their own proprietary data sets and models to build useful agents, and they can publish these models, data sets, and agents on a marketplace. And everyone come to this marketplace, they can see the pricing for using my agent, maybe $5 every few millions of tokens using this agent. Maybe data sets is you can 1 month subscriptions of the license usage, then you pay for this amount of money. Same thing for model. So everything is basically grounded to basically a fees, right? And then Sahara AI is only providing this infrastructure, this platform, and then charging the transaction-based fees for all of the transactions happens on the platform. And that's a very simple idea, but it doesn't exist as of today. And I think a key technical challenges that we are able to tackle to enable these kind of monetary transactions is what we call a trusted execution environment, or TEE based technology. This allows you to not enable to not distribute these data sets or models to people's local devices, but allow them to use these data sets and models on a cloud-based secured environment. And it's coupled with your GPUs and CPUs on the hardware. It's very efficient. It provides verification results for whatever you do, right? Are you the owner of the model? We can prove that. That comes very efficiently with these TE environments. So we are able to basically, at the end of the day, the outcome is very simple. You can sell your model, allow other people to use your model, allow other people to use your data sets without giving out the model, the copies of the model or the copies of data sets. So then you don't need to worry about people creating a black market around your data sets and models outside of the platform.
I mean, it's an incredibly powerful idea. So many questions for you. Maybe we'll start with the technical questions and we'll move on to the more philosophical and economic questions, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
You talked about a trusted execution environment. You talked about being able to distribute with confidence without fear of losing, the attribution or the control of your data. I believe you've made a technical choice to base this on Ethereum style a blockchain. Is that correct?
Yes.
Why did you make that choice? Why did you choose to go with blockchain technology to enable the platform?
Simply put, there's two key elements to ensure ownerships. One is to keeping data sets, models, agents to be secure, privacy preserved. And this is through the TEE or trusted execution environment, because you don't need to download those data sets and models to people's local environments. You can run this on the cloud, but then also run this within the TEE environments of those cloud GPUs and CPUs. At the same time, you need blockchain like an open ledger to bookkeep all of the important transactions happens around these data sets, models, and agents, right? Who collect the data sets? Who process the data sets? How was the data set used into iterating these models from version 1 to version 2? Who provided GPU compute? And how was the model used as part of the agent in different agent in different agents? All these, what we call the linearity or the trace in the AI development process, is bookkept through the blockchain. This is what we call provenance, right? So using blockchain to produce the provenance of AI assets, that's the second key component. So you have the security of the privacy protection of the AI access, and then you have the provenance of the AI access, and these two come together, creating what we call the ownership.
So then, talking then about the sort of the more sociological and business implications of that, what I'm hearing you say is almost a move to what Tim Berners-Lee was promoting, if you're familiar with Tim's work, and he was talking about the idea that people need to take back control of their data, something I think he was talking about 10 years ago, where the idea seemed like a great one, but technologically no one had any idea how to make it happen. This feels to me like a manifestation of that, like the idea that not only can businesses take control of their data and their models, but even individuals can start to monetize their ideas and their own personal data. You're nodding for people listening to the podcast. Is that part of what your inspiration was to give people back control?
The whole concept has been there for decades, right? All of us want privacy protections, but technically speaking, it's been a long journey for us to reach to today's status, right? People talk about zero knowledge proof. People talk about homomorphic encryptions. These are promising research directions, but far from being productionized as of today, because we are dealing with huge models. These transformers has billions of parameters. These technologies can only work with a smaller model with dozens or hundreds of parameters. So it's not applicable to the so-called transformers or this like foundational model we are dealing with today. But trusted execution environment, that's been materialized in the past 2 years. And it's already productionized in the latest GPUs and CPUs from Intel, from AMD, from NVIDIA. They are very accessible as of today. You can find them on A100, B100 GPUs that's been sold everywhere and used by all of the companies. So we basically seen the assumptions of having cryptographic methods works being largely simplified into the assumption of trusting these GPU and CPU providers. Like, as long as you trust Intel and NVIDIA and not putting backdoors on those CPUs and GPUs and channeling the data into their own servers, then you have a much better life you can work with.
And so let's talk about what you envisage the business use cases and the industries that might start to use decentralized AI. Are there, I mean, obviously you're talking to early adopters at Sahara. What are some of the industries or use cases that are getting the most interest or excitement for you?
Right now, I think there's two promising or already been validated application areas that we found for decentralized AI. One is data services, basically a decentralized way of finding data service contributors to help you collect data and process massage data. This has been, we have a huge advantage working with a decentralized setting because you are able to incentivize people over the globe better as long as you can assure the quality of the data sets that you create. So basically you find the best of both worlds. You need to use the quality assurance process in companies like Scale AI, but you need to also go beyond just like hiring a bunch of people sitting in the offices working on those data projects. Rather, you doing a more like a crowdsourcing approach, right? You're giving out these data projects to a network of millions of users that are like online gig workers, freelancers, right? They have been working on many other platforms like Prolific, Amazon Mechanical Turk. Their goal is just to split part of their time. Some of them, like they're doctors in the day, they're teachers in the day, they are college students. They have a few hours a week or a couple hours a day. They want to just earn extra. They have their knowledge, expertise. They have their own language and culture. You connect them with the right project that they could do good job. And you also have mechanisms of consolidating the data service results from tens of hundreds of these people working on the same projects. Then you get the best of both worlds, right? And you are able to quickly dispatch a project to the right set of people. They can finish quickly and you can get the results back to your enterprise clients. They are happy. You have also better price because you have reached to a much broader set of people in different areas of the globe. So I think that's like a first very strong use case for decentralized AI. It's on the data services.
If I'm a business leader and I want to start experimenting or playing with decentralized AI approaches, what should I be thinking about?
You should talk to us. The data. I mean, that's a simple answer.
That's the least surprising answer ever, Sean.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, what are some of the because a lot of our listeners have AI projects that they've started up. They might not be thinking decentralized at the moment. This might be a new idea to them. How should they be thinking about it? I guess my question is, technologically, what are some of the considerations? Governance and compliance, what do they need to be thinking about? Are there some architectural questions they need to be considering? Governance questions?
We've been working with many different enterprise clients. Like the complexity of the conversations varies a lot, right? If usually an enterprise will have their own internal access control and categorization systems for all of the data, right? If this is like my user very private data, then this is the highest level of access control and privacy. These kind of data usually don't go out of the company servers at all. It's also maybe out of the questions to process those data externally. But there will be certain lower the at certain level, these kind of some of the data in the enterprise can go out into some vendors, external vendors, third party data service providers for processing, for massaging, for cleaning, right? So those are the main business targets, right? Like those data will be allowed to go out, and those enterprise clients just need to consider: do I need a control facility to process those data? Do I need a fixed set of people working with this data, or I can opt for a more like decentralized and more like free, like flexible ways of processing those data? These are very use case specific conversations, right? Let's say if I need to create a audio models that replicate US native speaking manners and cultures, then I have to find a set of US native people with different accents and stuff like that. So in that way, I have a much more specific constraints. But if this is just like looking at the images, tell me what's in the images, I don't need to find a particular group of people in certain area. I can just try to lower my costs as much as possible and get the work done as fast as possible. And this is really good fit for decentralized AI setting. So I would say very use case specific.
I'm assuming also that for our enterprise listeners, that if they're thinking about building their own models and monetizing their models, this is an opportunity for them as well. Is that correct?
Exactly. So to be honest, we see less asks from big enterprises of monetizing their AI model, because rather for big enterprises like Microsoft, Amazon's, like these ones that we work with, their number one target is to make their own model the strongest in the industry and keeping those secrets as tight as possible, right? They don't want to give out a recipe, but rather they want to get more data from those users and for those use cases so that they can accumulate the sort of the advantage for their own use cases. But small, medium business, they will be thinking about, hey, I built a model, I have my own distribution channels, and I've been doing my hard work doing sales and BD, but it's insufficient. I need a bigger distribution channel. I want to use Sahara AI's marketplace to redistribute it and reach to more users, right? Or like I want to lower the cost. So I might be splitting the ownership of my models with those data set providers, with those other investors. So I can give out 20%, 30% of my revenue share to those people. So then I can get more starting fund to create this model. So we are able to use the provenance that I introduced to create some new economic models and business models, especially these revenue sharing mechanisms, right? I can have 10 different people participating into the creation of an agent or a model. And once this agent and model put into revenue generations, those revenue can autonomously be split across all these stakeholders through the provenance trace that I was talking about.
Maybe the last question for you is a little bit of a curveball. Let's see if it makes any sense. We've talked on this show, and there's been a lot of talk in the media about kind of the death of the consultant, that AI is replacing a lot of knowledge workers. As somebody who is fundamentally a knowledge worker, I'm hired to help businesses, my clients, with my special way of thinking, right? My own unique way of thinking. Do you envisage a future with something like Sahara where I could upload or create a Paul Muller model or a Sean Ren model based on the data that I've accumulated, the way I think, the patterns of thought and behaviors that I have, and I could start to monetize a digital version of me? Is that a possibility in our distant future?
I mean, it's already happening within Sahara AI. We one use case I can share is like we work with one of the biggest West creator agency in West Hollywood, and they are managing a couple hundreds of creators on Instagrams and all these like social channels. These creators is already monetizing themselves by just talking to their fans, selling media contents, getting tips, but whatever we call fan engagement, right? And this has been done in a manual way. There's like chatter and chatter managers, each managing dozens of creators, taking 3 shifts a day, talking to their fans, representing the creator themselves because of the bandwidth limitation, apparently. Now we are basically building this AI agents that can replacing these chatters, right? These AI agents will autonomously talk to those fans in a way that is not even noticeable. They have their own pace, right? If you talk to AI, they reply you too quickly. You feel like this is a bot. You don't like it. So, right. So when you talk to a creator as a fan, you don't expect them to respond quickly. They might respond you in 15 minutes and you feel like, oh, I got some attention. And then you text them next and they come back in another 30 minutes and you feel like, oh, this is really intriguing. And this is what the AI agent already been doing. Like they don't really look like a bot. They look like a real person. And it's happening. We have this technology already deployed and it's been serving already like dozens of creators and dozens of chatters. And this is like basically an agent that can replicate what the creators thinking process, the talking styles, the communication methods, the sales motions, all this stuff, right? And now you just expect this is one use case. Then you can also do this for realistic agents. You can do this for other sales. You can do this for customer service, legals, HR departments, right? Many other things, right? So we just think about what are the most tangible verticals this can be deployed, and then you just go from there.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So the creative industry is obviously one big use case. Are there other areas where you see this being immediately adopted?
I think creator, broadly speaking, is a very big industry, right? We're not just talking about these like celebrities or influencers. We're all talking about like key opinion leaders on Twitters, right? They write articles, they write deep analysis about certain projects, and they have the whole community following them and trying to think about investment advices and all this stuff following the KOL. So these are also a very big space we are looking into, right? But it's a very different working models compared to those celebrities and influencers.
But I would imagine that consultants, business consultants, would also be, they're content creators. They just create a different kind of content, right?
I think anything to do with deep research and analysis in the consolidation space has been seeing a huge improvements by these AIs, right? Because usually you have a couple interns spending a few weeks doing a deep report. Now it can be done in like 10 minutes by the AI agents. So this is crazy. Yeah.
That's brilliant. All right, excellent. Well, you launched your token, I think, about a month ago, is that right?
A month ago, yes.
Great, excellent. Well, all the best to you and the team. I hope you have continued success. If people are interested in learning more about your research or about Sahara AI, where can they go?
Sahara AI's website, saharaai.com, and you can find the whole blog post sections have very intriguing contents about all of our recent product launches and the tokenomics, and also for future roadmaps of our products. That's the best place to learn about the latest of us. And of course, our Twitter accounts, right? X Space, we run AMA quite often and love to also talk with Paul again in all these other channels.
And I appreciate the fact you still call it Twitter. So do I. I don't think I could ever get to calling it X. It's too complicated. Sean, an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you for taking the time. Congratulations on the launch, but also deep respect for the mission. I think what you're trying to do is, in terms of taking back control, it's more than just a technology. It's a philosophy, and I think it's really important work that you're doing there. So thank you for everything you're doing.
It's a long-term vision. It definitely not gonna just be by us alone. It's gonna be a whole ecosystem efforts that hopefully many of you would buy into this vision, and let's try to disrupt the centralized players.
I love it. Well, that's a wrap. So the big AI players, the next Standard Oil, and should you take back control? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop them into the comments section below, or hit up Cloudera on LinkedIn using the handle @Cloudera. We'd love to hear your thoughts. With that, thanks again to Cloudera for hosting another episode of the AI Forecast, and thank you all for listening in. We will see you all same time, same bat channel next week.